What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode today of the BroTech Gaming Podcast. In honor of the upcoming Fast and Furious X, soon to be out in the theaters, Carlos and I decided that we would make a Fast and Furious tier list based on all the Fast and Furious movies, not Hobbs and Shaw, because we don't get down with that. But the main movies in the franchise, we have a tier list for you, so this should be a fun one.
Definitely going to be a fun one. Brought my friend Jack over here to help us out. So I'll be doing a shot for every movie that we cover. Sean got the beer.
I got the beer.
So I got that idea. I was just at work chilling, and I was just like, you know what? I should watch every movie because there's a new one coming out, and it's been a while since I've watched all of them. Like I know I've seen all of them except nine. When I did the watch on here was actually the very first time I had watched nine because I had given up on the franchise a long time ago. So, so a lot of the movies are more memorable than the others. I know like the first couple movies, I remember seeing them more times than one, and then when it comes to like six, seven, eight, it felt like new movies to me because it was just like a one time watch, and then I forgot about them. So, so we'll get into it. so,
Yeah, like you sent me the YouTube link to watch like the whole like summary of all the movies. So that was kind of like what I used to brush up on most of the movies, and then as soon as I got done watching that, then I started watching 9. So I recently watched 9, so that's kind of like fresh, so to speak, in my memory. Uh rest of them are gonna be a little hazy, other than like the main plot points that I remember. So I'm gonna use Carlos to sort of like lead the way through most of these,
all
and
right.
then I'll just laugh.
So if you guys want to drink with me, you guys can pause it, get your shot ready, and let's go. Three, two, one.
All right, we begin.
Nasty. All right. So I have it in order in here from the way that they go in I guess the timeline, because usually Tokyo Drift would be the third movie, but on here I have it after six because I'll explain when we go into the breakdowns.
Cool.
All right, so getting into the first one, the Fast and Furious, the first one. Um, they actually had racing in it, which is what I really liked. We get introduced to the whole team. Um, the movie starts off at Dodger Stadium, which is already a big win. Um, yeah, so it starts off at Dodger Stadium. We got Paul Walker trying to race his car by himself and almost crashes into the side railing, which was pretty cool. Um, so basically, the movie was just Vin Diesel and his crew were stealing DVDs out of what do you call those, like big rigs?
Random big ass semi trucks.
Yeah. So they were getting tipped off by some dude that worked for the company. He would call up Vin and tell him, or Dom. He would call up Dom and tell him like, yeah, he's gonna be here at this time carrying this stuff, and then Dom and his crew would go into like the middle of the desert, shoot like a harpoon through the window, climb through the window, and like obviously like take all the shit out of the car or the truck. And that's how they were paying for their upgrades to their cars and stuff. So
Which at the time, the cars they were driving were kind of like everyday cars that you could just buy off the lot. Like they weren't like rich, like luxury cars. They were like Honda Civics and like old Nissans. They had like an Eclipse, a 1996 Eclipse and stuff. So arguably, like you probably could pay for those parts with stolen DVDs because they weren't getting like S tier parts for their cars. It's just like generic tuner stuff. But
yeah, yeah, for sure. So that's when we get introduced to Paul Walker, Brian O'Connor. He's undercover, so he needs to infiltrate the group and become one of them to obviously turn them in and do his job. So that's when he meets what's the sister's name? Um,
Mia.
yeah, Mia. So he has a thing for Mia, and then the other guy, dude, I can't remember their names, man. The dude with the tattoos,
Uh, wasn't it Vince?
yeah, Vince. There you go. So Vince, I guess, had known Dom since like kindergarten or something. He mentions that. I actually went to go see this movie when I was a teenager. Uh, so if you guys live in Palmdale, you guys remember the movie's 8, which was off of 22nd and Palmdale Boulevard, which isn't there anymore. I think it's like a gym now. But yeah, so I went there to go watch that movie. I think it was like the first day it came out because it was like a big thing. And in that movie, Vin Diesel had mentioned Palmdale, and like the whole crowd like erupted with, "Oh my God, he said Palmdale!" Like we were living in Lancaster at the time, but like Palmdale and Lancaster are the same exact city. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So it was really cool that like a big blockbuster movie had mentioned Palmdale, but then like a lot of us know of a city called Lompoc, and to hear Vin Diesel not be able to pronounce Lompoc right, well, it kind of like killed it. So he kind of like balanced himself out saying Palmdale, and then he said like Lompoc or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, come on.
Get the script right.
Yeah. So not a lot happens. Well, not a lot to talk about in this movie. I'm sure everyone's seen it 100 times. It's a really good movie. So for me, I'm just gonna jump right into it and give it an S tier because honestly, this is probably my favorite one out of all of them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I watched that in theaters when it first came out. I know it was like kind of a big deal, like especially at the time, like you didn't really have a lot of movies back then that really glorified and put a spotlight on the whole like tuner car culture. So to me, it was sort of a one of a kind. Racing in general, you didn't really have like a lot of movies that involved like race cars. Most of them would be like you had like movies like Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise, and you had I think there was a movie that like Sylvester Stallone did where he drives like a Formula One car or something. So most of it was always going to be like sanctioned like professional races, but nothing really focused on like the street race tuner aspect of things. Which at the time, if you guys ever played games like Need for Speed and Need for Speed Underground, like this was very like synchronized with the way those games were and how the movie was. So um I enjoyed it. Still one of my favorite movies. To me, it's still very watchable. I don't have it as an S though. I have it as an A. I put mine as A just because, as iconic and as truly original the movie was, the acting was pretty whack. like, um, Brian O'Connor or Paul Walker, R.I.P. Like he was definitely like not the best actor back in the day. Most people remember him from Varsity Blues before he did any of the Fast and Furious movies. So it was kind of hard to believe him in some of those scenes. Like, dude, I almost had you. like, it was just
Yeah,
so bad. It was just so bad. So I still put it as an A as opposed to S tier, but to me, it's still pretty high up there.
yeah. I did write very cheesy in my notes, so kind of going along with what you're saying right now
A
too.
little cringe, a little cringe.
Yeah, just a little bit, but like a good cringe. There's bad
There's
cringe and then there's good cringe.
great one-liners though. There were some really good one-liners, and what I like about the most was the action was just raw. Like they didn't have CGI. I'm sure they had some like special effects and stuff to make it seem like ultra hypercharged. Like when Vin Diesel like pops a wheelie on his car, like you couldn't technically do that with that level car. Not to that extent, anyways, where he was almost like vertical. I know they had some hydraulic special effects under there, but like for the most part, the action was pretty raw and appreciated, even if like the one-liners were pretty bad.
So yeah, so Vince gets messed up on the truck, and then Paul Walker says that he's a cop. He tells Mia and Dom. They find out that he's a cop, and then at the end of the movie, Paul Walker lets Dom go, gives him the car, and then he walks like towards the camera, and the movie's over. They did have an end credit where you see Dom in Mexico driving the car. I guess he was kind of messed up, like he was hurt or something, and it kind of just ends right there, kind of setting up what they thought was going to be another Fast and Furious movie, but I guess Vin Diesel was asking for too much money to do another one, so they kind of just left him out, which brings us to Too Fast, Too Furious. So we get introduced to Tyrese, which is he's still in the franchise to this day. Which
Roman.
which another fun fact, they actually wanted to get Ja Rule to play Tyrese's role because Ja Rule came out in the first movie. So they actually had they wanted Ja Rule to play Tyrese's part, but I guess Ja Rule was asking for too much money too. And
Because his part was too big in the first movie.
yeah, dude, he came out for like 10 minutes, like max.
No,
Monica.
Monica.
Yeah. All right. So I forgot to take my shot. So let me. Cheers.
Cheers. Movie two.
Yeah. So Too Fast and Furious. I feel like Paul Walker had the best line in the movie, and he's talking to Tyrese, and the camera like zooms in on him, and he goes, "I said, forget about it, kid."
I want to hear about this, homie. I said, forget about it, cuz.
Dude, the best one liner
What?
like
I can
ever.
never. I'll never forget that line for as long as I live. That like that's the one thing I remember from that movie, which is like, "Said forget about it, cool."
Yeah, that shit was
Like
so
white
good,
dude,
dude.
like the whitest dude ever. Oh,
But you know what? I feel like it worked with his character because he was so
mm,
close with Tyrese, and
mm,
they actually became best friends during that movie.
mm.
Which there is another like behind the scenes like interview with I think it was Eva Mendes. So Eva Mendes comes out in this movie, and Eva Mendes had a stunt double. So at the time, Paul Walker and Tyrese were both smashing the stunt double.
Nice.
So I guess towards the end of the movie, they found out that they were both smashing the girl, and oh no, it was the stunt double she was doing the interview.
Okay.
So she was saying that, like times like this, they're either gonna fight over me or they're gonna become best friends. And we all know what happened. They became best friends
Wow.
in real life.
Thanks to the
So
stunt.
yeah, so that was a cool little background little thing. So also Tyrese has a really good one liner. They're riding in the car and he ejects the dude out of the car, and he's like, ejectocito, cuz.
Mighty go! Ejectocito, cuz!
That was a really good line. But yeah, so the movie had a little bit of racing. It took place in Miami because I guess Paul Walker ran to Miami because that was his getaway spot. We get introduced to Ludacris. So Ludacris had like a shop like right there on the water, which is pretty cool. Um, and like the opening scene, so you get all the racers at the opening scene, and then I guess they're missing one racer because I guess the guy had to work late. So then Ludacris is all like, oh, like, I got a guy, is it cool if I call him? So everyone's like, yeah, 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 call him. So like Brian shows up and everyone's like, oh shit, it's Brian. But like you watch the rest of the movie and you see that they're all cool with each other. So like I'm wondering, like, why isn't Brian there racing in the first place? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why did they call him last even though he should have been there first?
They had to make like a grand intro for him though. He couldn't just be there. Like he had to show up and like speed up in his skyline, like ripping through the bridge and like zooming in between cars. So I think it was just a way to get him like introduced back into it with like a big like grand entrance. So
Yeah, which it makes sense at the beginning of the movie, but then once you see the movie and you see that they're all cool with each other and they hang out all the time, it's kind of weird seeing that in the beginning.
yeah.
But yeah, that was my like my only gripe about that movie. So yeah, so Paul Walker gets caught from the police. They introduced this new thing where they shoot like harpoons at the car, and the harpoon like locks onto the car and it messes up their whole driving system, and it just
Mm.
like hits the brakes and they just it kills the car basically. So Paul Walker gets caught, and then they ask him to go undercover again. So this is when he picks Tyrese to go undercover with him. That's when they meet Eva Mendes because she's undercover also. It's like everybody's undercover.
Everybody's like undercover in Miami because when you're dealing with Miami, you've got like drug cartels and undercover cops. It's so like Miami Vice because that's how it is in Miami apparently.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so they're trying to get undercover to see. I think his name was like Verone or something like that. I guess they wanted to bust him for some money and drugs. I guess he was like smuggling it out of the country. So they stop him. That's when they use the car to jump from the pier onto the boat, and then I don't like. So the way that they did it was pretty cool, but the fact that they didn't kill Eva Mendes in the process because she was there on top, and then they go and like jump on the boat, and everybody's okay. Um, so yeah, so that was kind of cool to see the car jump over the water and go like into the middle of the ocean to stop the boat.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was it, pretty much it for that one. So this one I actually put an S tier also. And I think it was just because I like the old school movies, man. Like I liked Paul Walker when he was like cheesy and Tyrese when he was cheesy. I think
Okay.
I'm just biased when it comes to that.
Okay. Okay. So S tier. So you got two S tier movies already. So yeah, I remember Too Fast, Too Furious. The one thing that I did like about Too Fast, Too Furious was they still were embedded in the tuner culture. So we didn't have like crazy luxurious cars that you'd like never seen or never heard of before. Like you still had legitimate cars. A lot of people kind of like associate the later franchises with Brian O'Connor to the Skyline. So everybody kind of like accepted that as his like next level car. I still liked his Supra from the first Fast and Furious movie, but the Skyline's cool. They had other cool cars. They had like S2000s and they had like RX-7s. I don't like that they went from him having a Skyline to him having like a Lancer Evo because like, I used to play like a lot of Gran Turismo and stuff, and to me that's like a downgrade of a car instead of like an upgrade, but I mean it's cool. They still had cool racing scenes. Um I just found it really hard to get behind Paul Walker being like the lead role for that movie. Like nothing else really like fit for me. Like I really like the first Fast and Furious movie and I like the characters from that, and I don't feel like the characters that they replaced from the first movie were like better than from the first. I honestly didn't care much for Ludacris's character in the movie. Like I thought Tyrese was actually kind of annoying. I didn't like the like little Japanese Asian chick in the movie. Like none of them really like meshed for me. Um, it just didn't really like do much for me. Like it just made me miss the first movie. So I actually put mine as B. I put it as a B tier, like which isn't that bad, but only because it still had some cool action, still had legit cars. It just didn't like it wasn't as good to me as the first Fast and Furious movie.
Okay, all right, for sure. So I got two S tiers and you have an A and a B.
I got an A and a B.
And I feel like as we get into the other movies, I feel like it's gonna be more time in between shots because I have so much shit to talk about when it comes to the later movies. Tokyo Drift, wrote in my notes, nobody from the last movie shows up. We get a whole new cast. Um, and at the time, I don't know if you know the guy's name, the main guy.
I just know his name in the movie is Sean.
Okay, so Sean. So at the time, I feel like Sean kind of looked like Paul Walker. So I felt like they were trying to get like a discount Paul Walker in the movie just to try to bring back fans and be like, well, he kind of looks like Paul Walker. Like,
Yeah, but not really.
yeah, not really, not at all. So we also have Little Bow Wow. I think back then he was still Lil.
Hmm.
Before he changed his name to just Bow Wow.
Hmm.
I put on here that we got a discount Vanessa Hudgens because that's what she looks like. That was my first thought when I saw her. I mean, she was still pretty, and then she had like a weird thing. Like, I guess she was British, or she was Australian. I think she was
I think she's
Australian.
Australian. In real life, I think she's Australian, but she couldn't really like shake the accent
Yeah, that's what I was
in
gonna
the
say.
movie.
Like her accent comes and goes.
Mhm. Even though she's
So
supposed to be like embedded in Japanese culture.
yeah, yeah. So that kind of threw me off. Like every time I'd hear her talk, I was like, okay, is she Australian or is she like American that went to Japan or like what's going on?
Hmm.
Um, so big parts out of the movie. We get Han's death. Han's death because, as we all know, he didn't die.
And that will become a significant point of topic throughout many
Yeah.
movies.
So it's two big topics coming up for Han's death. And yeah, so basically this movie was just about drifting, which is pretty cool. I don't think a lot of us had been exposed to drifting. It was all just racing, either like drag racing, going head to head, doing that quarter mile, or just racing in the streets, like street races, stuff like that. So for me, this was the first time that I got introduced to drifting. I had no idea what the fuck drifting was. So it was pretty cool to see that get imported into the movie. Um, so
No pun
Sean,
intended.
yeah. So Sean basically got deported to Japan because his dad lives out there. Because I guess he was in the army, or he was doing some kind of service.
Yeah.
Um, so the first day that Sean is out there, he gets introduced to Little Bow Wow. He gets introduced to the DK, which he's like Donkey Kong. He's like, no, Drift King. And then he races him, and this is where we get introduced to Han, because Han comes out and he's like, yeah, let him use my car. And then Sean like completely fucks up that car. And it's funny because I'm watching the editing. The editing was so bad because there's times where Sean's trying to drift and he crashes into like a cement pillar, and nothing happens to the car in the next scene. It's like perfectly fine. And
Uh,
then so at the end of the race, like Sean's turning the corner and the car is just like all fucked up, falling
yeah,
apart.
falling to pieces.
Yeah, so that was a good like funny moment. And then basically it's Sean just trying to fix up the car to give back to Han, but at the same time he's learning how to drift. So we find out that Han is kind of wrapped up with what do you call it, like the Japanese mafia,
Mhm.
because he's selling stuff to one of the kids in high school. And like at this time, like Han's pretty old. Like he's probably like late 20s, 30s, hanging out with high school kids. It's kind of
Yeah.
sus.
If we're following the timeline too, like if it's technically like a prequel to like if this is technically like after like you really truly first get introduced to Han in like the series, which isn't until like 5 and 6, like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
why are you hanging out with high school kids, bro? Like you creeper.
yeah. I thought that was kind of weird.
Oh, funny. That's funny.
So I'll just skip to the end because that's pretty much all that's important for this movie. Is so Han is basically running away from the Japanese mafia. So in the scene that we get, he crashes into a car, and I guess he gets like flipped upside down. So Sean goes over there running towards him, sees him flipped over, all fucked up, and then it explodes. The car explodes.
You see Han in the car, upside down in the car when it blows up.
Yeah. And then it explodes. And then at this time, in the Fast and Furious timeline, like Han's dead.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to go like 1, 2, and 3, this is the third installment. Han's dead. So it's pretty sad that he dies. They don't really mourn him at all because like right after that, they're in the garage again racing. So it doesn't tell you how much time like went from Han dying to them like racing again. It's whatever.
Mhm.
So we get the scene where Bow Wow comes up to Sean and is like, "Hey, this guy wants to race you," and Sean's all like, "Oh, I'm not racing tonight." And then Bow Wow's like, "Oh, he said that he used to know Han." So we get that whole dramatic like head turn from Sean. He's like, "Really?" And then walks up to the car, and you see Dom's car, and then it focuses in on Dom, and he's all like, "Oh, like you knew Dom," and like blah blah blah. So he's like, "Yeah, let's race." And then it kind of just skips over the race, which I thought it would have been like super fucking cool to see that race. So I want to see Dom fucking drift. So it
And
just
is
skips
like
over that, and I think it
in
just
like his El
ends.
Camino or whatever the fuck it was, he imported over to Japan.
Yeah, I think it was his Charger. No.
I don't know what kind of car it was. Like his cars have become like synonymous for just having like old Chargers, but I don't know what kind of car it was per se. I don't know if it was a Charger, but it's definitely not a car that you would find in Japan unless he like directly imported it there just to show up to that parking garage to race because he knew Han in the past life.
Yeah. So fun fact about that scene. Vin Diesel only agreed to do that scene if he got the rights to Riddick. Riddick is a movie that Vin Diesel was a star of. Because you had a was it like Pitch Black, and then it went to Chronicles of Riddick, and then his standalone was Riddick.
Mm,
So the reason that he did Riddick was because he pretty much owns the rights to Riddick, and
makes sense.
I guess it was like Universal owns or owned Riddick, so that's why, and that was his deal for like the 10 seconds that he was in Tokyo Drift. He got a whole fucking franchise,
Sounds like
which
something Ringo would do.
yeah, I mean, which was cool. I don't hate on him for that. All right, um, so what I put for Tokyo Drift, I gave it drum roll. I gave it an A.
My experience with Tokyo Drift is actually one of my favorite ones. I have always been a fan of just Japanese culture in general, especially when it comes to street racing. You know, like if you are into street racing, then you can't deny the impact that like Japanese cars have. Like Toyota, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Honda, like all those cars are like just like the tuner genre of street racing. So I like that they were kind of going back to something original. I like the drifting. I thought even though the characters weren't really like significant, like they weren't larger than life, it's kind of like you said, they were kind of like, knockoff Paul Walkers and all that kind of stuff. Um, I thought the cinematography was really good. I thought the action was really good. Um, the scene where they're all like running away and they're all chasing each other, and then Sean like does this big like drift like around like downtown Tokyo, and like all the people just kind of like spread out, and you just see like this big like drift in slow motion. Like I thought that was like one of the most like badass scenes. So I really had a lot to appreciate from the movie, even though if it was very like different from the other genres. So I put Tokyo Drift as an A on my list as well. So still it was definitely like one of my favorite ones out of the franchise, even though a lot of people did hate on it. There's a lot of people that don't like Tokyo Drift at all, but I'm one of those that like it.
I think the reason people didn't like it was because it didn't have any of the recurring cast members.
Hmm.
I remember that was one reason why I didn't like it, because I did go and watch it, and I think I hated on it because nobody was in there.
Yeah.
But watching it back now, like watching it for what it is, like a standalone, like still in the universe, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it still isn't like a bad movie, despite it not having any of the original characters.
All right, so we both gave that one A's.
It is what it is. And I would like to note, before we get into talking about the actual movie, that this was the start of the very interesting naming scheme moving forward for all of the movies. So, while it is the fourth installment in the franchise, we don't get Fast for the Furious, Fast and Furious 4. We just get Fast and Furious. Minus the we just get Fast and Furious, which is number 4 in the series.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that.
It's just confusing.
But honestly, that's how it is for every movie. Like going forward, they all have a different name. They don't follow anything.
Oh, very true, very true, very true.
All right, so getting into Fast and the Furious. Um, so this is the one where we go back to the main cast. Um, we get Dom, Letty, Brian, Mia, and I think what was his name? Vince comes out in it. Was it?
I don't remember him being in this one actually. Vince? Like it starts
Yeah,
out with him in basically like in like Mexico with the tanker heist, right?
yeah. So this is when it starts off with they're stealing like gas, and so you see Han. Han is one of the drivers, and at the time, because Tokyo Drift came out before this movie, you see Han and he's alive, and you're like, what the fuck? Like it didn't make any sense.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess people came to the conclusion that it's a prequel to Tokyo Drift.
Hmm.
They don't explain it. They don't explain it until like 6 or 7.
Hmm.
But yeah,
7.
yeah,
It was
7 they
definitely
explain it.
7.
Yeah,
Well,
so
no, okay, so before we get too far ahead, I think it was actually an after credit scene in 6.
uh, was it? What was the after credit?
The after credit scene in 6 was Han in Tokyo and him blowing up, and that's when like Jason Statham gets on the phone.
Oh, and he calls Dom to like pretty much say that he's the one that killed Han.
Yeah, he's like, "You don't know me, but I know you, and I'm coming after you."
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, so this one, this one has to do with the tunnel races. When they're going in between, or maybe like America and Mexico.
Yeah, it's like the Mexico border.
Yeah. So it starts off with all of them. So it has Dom, Letty, not Brian and Mia, but they had Han. They had like Don Omar. They had the other dude, and I can't remember his name. I think it was
I
like
don't remember them.
Tego Calderon. So it was them. So they're basically stealing, and then so they go to the beach and they're hanging out on the beach, and um Han is basically saying like, they raided one of our spots somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but Han's pretty much saying like, hey, like they're kind of onto us, they're and doing this job that we just did right now is only going to bring them closer. So um so Dom is like, okay, well, I'm going to go my own way, so you guys go your own way, so that way the heat isn't on you guys, it's only going to be on me. So Letty basically goes home back to LA. So Brian basically recruited Letty to go undercover into the Mexican drug cartel, so he would be able to take down I don't remember his name anymore, but one of the like a drug cartel basically.
Mhm.
So one of the henchmen um runs after Letty to try to go kill her. Her car flips, the car explodes, and she's dead. So in this movie, Letty dies. And heavy with the quotations because nobody fucking dies in this series.
Ever.
So, so we meet up with Brian again. He's basically, man, what was Brian's role in this one?
So he basically
Um,
worked for the FBI at this point.
yeah, so yeah, he's in the FBI now.
Mhm.
Um, so Dom goes back home. We meet up with Mia. They meet up together in the garage, and then I think like Paul Walker, or not Paul Walker, yeah, Paul Walker. But Brian goes over there and talks to him too, and they're basically trying to capture. Um, they're basically trying to get back at the people who killed Letty.
Mhm.
So for that to happen, they have to go undercover, be drivers for that cartel, and so we get the scenes of them driving in the mountain, like in the mountain, because I guess it's like a mine kind of that goes
Mhm.
from like one side to the other, and it's like a whole bunch of turns, and there's just like posts inside there holding up the dirt and stuff like that, which is a pretty crazy scene. I don't know if that actually happened in real life, but it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Oh, his name is Braga. So the
Okay.
main
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
guy's
yeah.
name is Braga.
I remember Braga. He's a good
Um,
actor though.
Yeah, he was cool. I think he like he's a little bit older now. I think he has like he comes out in another show with like a whole like beard and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Maybe if that's the same guy. Um so yeah, so basically we'll just jump to the end cuz not a lot of stuff happens in this movie. Um so they basically kill the one that killed Letty. They send Braga to jail. Uh Dom I can't even talk anymore. This shit's hitting me. Dom turns himself in, so we get the trial, and that he was gonna serve like life in prison or something like that. So Brian gets mad, gets up, walks away. So the next thing that we get is the bus, the jail bus going down in the middle of nowhere, obviously, because that's how it is.
Probably in Muhammad Desert.
Yeah, it kind of looked like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we get all four. I think it was like, who was it? It was Brian, Mia.
Han.
Was it Han?
I'm pretty sure Han was in it too. Like I don't know. I don't remember Han was in it, but there were like 4 cars. It was like the Mexican dudes, I think, from like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I think it might have just been them two. So
Yeah,
them
maybe.
two, Mia and Brian, and then it kind of just ends as they're like going in front of the bus. So you kind of just assume that they're gonna break him out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and then the movie ends right there.
Hmm.
So so where are we at? Fast and Furious. Let me check and see what I gave it. Um, I don't know. I don't feel like this movie was that good, but I'm gonna give it a B.
This is gonna be when our opinions finally get like super different. So, I was like super excited for this movie because I like that they brought all the characters back. I feel like they had like a cool balance between still having like some of that street race culture with like the dangers that came about it, like adding like a whole like cartel aspect to it, like up in the ante on the danger. I thought was really cool. They had not yet gotten to a point where the characters were like indestructible. Like I really believe that like Letty died. I like the first introduction to Brian because like they kind of use like this like hand camera shaky cam thing. He's like running through the buildings and like tackling dudes through buildings, and I don't know, dude. I actually really like this movie, so I put it as my S tier movie. It's
Wow.
like I think it might be my favorite one just because it had like so much of the old that I liked, and then some of the new that I liked too. Like I thought the action was really good, and I actually really like the street racing scene where like they're racing and then like Brian goes the wrong way and he's got like the GPS talking to him and he's just like always telling like his computer to shut up when it's ever like telling him that he's doing something wrong. So I just kind of liked it. It had a lot of nostalgia. It was kind of like taking what was good about the first Fast and Furious movie and just kind of like upping the ante a little bit. So I put it as my S tier, which is probably a little overrated. I would probably have to rethink that one by watching it again. But as of right now, it stays as my S tier movie, fourth movie in the franchise.
All right. No shame in your game.
Mm-mm.
All
I'll die on that hill.
right. All right.
Quarter mile at a time,
Quarter mile at a time.
an hour into it.
Cheers.
So this is where things start to get blurry with me. So just like we have in all the Fast and Furious movies, the movies kind of like hit the nos, just blows by in a blur. So I think Fast Five was still kind of memorable for me. There are definitely things I still remember and liked about it, but I think this is when things start to get a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So this one, I only wrote half a page of notes on here because I think this is just like kind of like where it starts to escalate, but not that bad.
It hasn't been that bad yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Fast Five. Okay. So we get to see what we talked about in the last movie. They break Dom out. So
Hmm.
basically, they kind of show in more detail on how they break him out. So like they have like their little cars and they go in front of the bus and like I guess the bus was like kind of like swerving. So then like Paul Walker goes in front and like hits the brakes and somehow by him hitting the brakes and the bus hitting him in the back, the bus like
There's
flipped
like a whole like flip.
and didn't kill Paul Walker in the same instant, which is
Yeah.
was kind of funny. But
No one died in the filming of this bus heist.
yeah, I'm sure he didn't even like get a dent on his car.
Mhm.
So it shows that just to kind of like bridge the gap on how they got him out. I think we get like a little time jump because they're already I think we jump to like South America.
Brazil.
Yeah, they're in Brazil. So Mia basically says that she's pregnant. But I think she told him like after like kind of like in the middle of the movie, kind of jumping around. But this is where Vince comes out. So they go down there and they get help from Vince. So we find out that Vince is still in the franchise. He has I don't know if he's married or if he just has like a baby mama, but
I
he
think
has
he
a
just found
kid.
like another family. Yeah. He just went
Yeah.
and found like himself a family in Brazil, South America.
Yeah. So then he's still doing jobs, I guess like heist jobs. So he kind of tells them like, hey, like I know you guys are low on money, like you guys are hungry, like I have a job, let me know if you guys are in. And they say yeah, because obviously they don't have any money. Um, and then they're asking like, oh, like where's Dom at? And they're like, oh, he said he was gonna meet us over here. Because I guess he had stuff to do. I don't know. So the job that they had is that they were gonna go rob a train. And this movie is like, I had like the biggest gripe over this because so basically they go and rob a train. They cut like a big ass hole on the side of the train and they're stealing cars out of it, which is fine. So um so Dom hears one of the guys and says like, "Oh, I'm taking this car." So I don't know why Dom got so offended by him saying that he was going to take a certain car that he stops that guy and says like, "No, we're going to take that car." And makes it into a big deal. So Mia was the one that got into that car and left, and then he hits up Mia and is like, "Hey, like we're gonna meet up over here instead." So so basically, this whole movie happened because of that, because Dom didn't want them to get the car that they wanted, and like I was just like, why? That's so stupid. I don't understand why. There's no reason to it. Like this movie should not exist based on
Mhm.
that logic.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, we have to have a movie. So they all meet up at the garage. They're trying to see what was so special about this car. They start taking it apart, and then they notice that like I think it was like inside of the GPS screen or something like that. They had a like a memory card, but they only know that because Vince was trying to go over there and get it. Because Vince was all like, "I don't know why they did that. I don't know what's going on." Blah blah blah. And it turns out Vince knew. So in Dom's eyes, Vince betrayed him.
Set him up.
Yeah. So this is when we get introduced to The Rock, because The Rock and his team go in there. So I guess they're like, The Rock is basically just, you put a name on his desk and he goes out there and brings him in. That's all he does. That's all he cares about. He
Mhm.
doesn't care about backstory. He doesn't care about why they're doing it. Um, let's see. So there was a fight scene with Dom and Hobbs, which I thought was really good. Like they go at it, they go like through like flying through like windows and stuff like that, and like it felt like they were very like on the same level. And it turns out that Dom actually won that fight. Because there was a scene where he grabbed the wrench and he hits the floor like where the Rock's at, and you just like the camera just pans at everybody's reaction and they're like, oh my god, like, so you basically think that he just like crushed his face in. And then when the camera finally like pans down to him, like you see like the big old like hole on the side of the concrete next to his head, and he's fine, and now they're best friends.
Mhm.
um so yeah, so I think that's all I had on that one. But
Game respect game.
yeah, so I think this is the one. So is this the one where they pull the safe out of the?
5 is they basically have like the chargers. They all get a hold of like 4 different chargers. And they all like race each other in the movie, and it was sort of like Brian like wins the race, and like he's super proud, and he's just like, I finally beat you, I finally beat you. And then like you see like Rome, which is Tyrese and Ludacris, and they're just like, it's like, he doesn't know, huh? It's like, he let you win, he let off the throttle before you got across the finish line. And then that was kind of like a funny scene because like it's still like Dom like messing with him. But it was those chargers that they used to like break into that like underground like bunker to like pull the safe out, because they like chained it up and like yanked it.
Yeah,
And that's what
okay.
they're like swinging it like across the highway, like dragging it behind their chargers.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that was a different movie, but I even took notes and it's still confusing. Okay, so this is when they create the super team. So they bring Ludacris back. They bring in Giselle, which Giselle was from the last movie, Wonder Woman.
Mhm.
They bring in Tyrese. They bring in the ones from Five, Don Omar and Diego Calderon. They bring them back. And so they had a really funny scene because they went into the bathroom and they put explosives like on the toilets, like the piping, and then you see like the cop goes in there and starts to take a shit, and then it explodes, and like all this shit comes out from all the toilets and stuff, and the dude is just like running out with his pants down, like covered in shit.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was funny. Well, they needed I think they just needed an in because
They
they
needed a distraction, I think.
yeah, they did something in the oh, they needed that to be able to tap into their security system to make a hole in the wall because I guess the security system ran through the bathroom.
And this is also where we find out that Ludacris is actually like an exceptional like hacker and like a cyber hacker, even though in Too Fast Too Furious he's just a really good mechanic. But turns out he's also a really good cyber hacker that has like gadgets and gizmos.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what else happens in this movie. So, oh, okay, so I remember they stole some of those small cars because they were trying to get they were trying to shave off enough time in order to go like into the police station to steal whatever they had to do. And then at the end of the movie, it didn't even matter because The Rock just like rammed his car through the police station, and then the other cars went in and they hooked onto the safe, and then they just pulled the safe out. So it
Mhm.
was like all that training that they did, like it was for nothing.
Leave it to The Rock.
Yeah. So The Rock was mad because the cartel had killed his team.
Hmm.
So that's why that was the only reason that he joined the team for that time. And so they pull the safe out, and then they do that whole like switcheroo where they go underneath the overpass and they pull the safe into the trash can, or not the trash can, the trash truck, and then the
Hmm.
truck drives off because they had an extra safe, like an empty safe that they hooked back on. And they did that like in a matter of like 5 seconds because if you look at it in the scene, like all the way in the back, you can see the police car still chasing them,
Hmm.
but they didn't see them switch out the safes. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Hmm.
But yeah, so at the end of the movie, uh yeah, so they gave up the safe even though there was nothing in there. The Rock looks in there and there's nothing in there. He's all like fuck. And it pretty much ends like that.
He got
Um
duped.
yeah, so then we get the after movie credit scene, um where the Rock is in his office, and Eva Mendes does like a guest appearance where she comes over, and they drop down the folder, and you see Letty's face on there. Yeah, and she's not dead,
Surprise.
and then the movie ends like that. So we'll go back to my pick. Um, so what is it? This is Fast Five, right?
Yeah, Fast Five.
All right, so I actually gave this movie a C, just on the fact that I was so mad that there was no point to how it started.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. It was funny. I actually have it as a C as well because it just kind of like to me it was kind of meh. Like I still obviously liked it. It was still a good movie as far as like the action goes. It wasn't so suspended in disbelief that the other movies have become now. Um, I just remember there was like a bunch of like talk and controversy. So like we got Vin Diesel back. So he hadn't like technically besides like the fourth movie, he'd only been in the first one, and everybody remembers Vin Diesel being like this like a muscle like a ripped dude, right? And he wasn't in like two movies after that. He came back for four, and then time had like basically like passed in between like the next few movies, and everybody was talking about how like fat and out of shape Vin Diesel was, like he wasn't like in shape anymore, and everybody was making a big deal out of it. And like his argument was like, well, like Dom Toretto is a grease monkey that sits that like tunes a car and drinks beers. Like he doesn't go to the gym, he doesn't work out every day. But everybody was making such a big deal out of it, and like when it got to like him being like against like The Rock, they'd use like every camera trick that they could think of to make Vin Diesel look like him and The Rock were like the same size, even though in real life, Vin Diesel is only like 5'8" or 5'9", and The Rock is like 6'3". like when they're fighting each other, they're like at the same level, but in reality, like The Rock is like this much taller than Vin Diesel. So I thought that was just like kind of a funny like backstory going into part five, is everybody made such a big deal out of that. Also, we finally got a character in the series that like dies and potentially stays dead, which is Vince. Like Vince actually gets like shot up like a bunch of times in that like street fight. So I don't know. Maybe they're gonna bring him back. Maybe they figure out how to bring him back in Fast X. We'll see. I would not be surprised. Otherwise, yeah, a C for me, just based on same reasons. I think you as well. Like, there's a lot of it that just kind of felt sort of pointless in the movie, but I still thought the action was good.
Yeah, I feel like they did a lot of stuff just to run like pad the runtime.
Hmm.
So Vin Diesel is hooked up with the girl, which was like the Rock's translator from the last movie. She was the cop that was helping the Rock out because her husband had gotten killed, and then she was like devoted herself as a cop. So now Vin Diesel is hooking up with this chick. I guess they live together in some country, and this is only one movie past Letty dying. So
Hmm.
he's already with another girl. So the Rock shows up and he's all like, you know, you can't arrest me here and blah blah blah. And he's all like, I'm not here to arrest you. But the thing is, like, the thing that I'm about to show you, you're gonna want to come with me. He's like, in fact, you're probably gonna beg me to come to be able to go with me. So he drops the envelope. He says, I'll be in the car waiting for you. He opens up the envelope and he sees a picture of Letty. So um it turns out that Letty is not dead. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun.
Um,
Surprise.
yeah, so I guess what happened was when that guy went to go kill her, instead of shooting her, he shot the car and the car blew up and she ended up like blowing up like onto the side of the road, but she didn't die.
Hmm.
And she I guess Shaw had went to the hospital to go finish her off and then noticed that she doesn't have memory, like her memory got erased. So she was like a fresh slate. So he recruited her. So now Letty is on the bad guys team. So we also get Gina Carano. I think that's her name.
Yeah, Gina Carano from
The Mandalorian.
Mandalorian
Yeah, she comes out
season
in The
one.
Mandalorian. She came out in. There was something else that she came out in too.
There's a movie called Haywire that she was in, and she was in like a few movies. She was in like in a few like actiony movies because she was an MMA fighter, and she decided to give up MMA to become an actress. So she had some martial arts skills.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, she did her own scenes. I'm guessing.
Not much for acting though, but as a
Yeah.
martial artist, she's okay.
So yeah. So I don't know if this movie like really makes sense for the time. Uh,
What?
but
Doesn't make sense.
but so this is the movie where basically uh Dom turns into fucking Superman.
They're all Avengers now,
Yeah. Um
except for Giselle.
yeah, not Giselle. So we can just kind of skip to the end because not a lot happens until the end of the movie. Um we do get Brian, he goes to jail to talk to Braga. And I actually thought that was a pretty good scene. He fights off like five people in the cell. And then like he's trying to get Braga to talk and he like stabs him in the leg. And like he's all like, yeah, I'm still not gonna talk to you. And he goes to like stab him again. He's like, wait, okay. Like gives up that quick. Um yeah, so Brian, like, it's kind of funny because he's on the run. So like he basically turns himself in to the FBI, but the FBI knows that he's like undercover going into jail. And then like he gets out of jail and he just ends up back in wherever they are again, like 10 minutes later, like
Mhm.
nothing. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
Um, so there's the part with the tank. Um, so we get you know, Tyrese where he has to make his paycheck and he's like, they got a tank and blah blah blah.
he's the comic relief at this point.
Yeah. So this is the movie that we also get introduced to Ramsey.
That's
Ramsey
right,
is
hacker.
another hacker. She came out in Game of Thrones, and honestly, in Game of Thrones, she was one of my favorite characters. Um,
Oh, she was she the girl that was like oh man.
she was a
I think I remember
translator.
who she is. She's a translator for Khaleesi.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then she ends up hooking up with Wormtongue. Wormtongue? His name Wormtongue?
something worm, something
Something worm. I
big
don't remember.
worm.
No worm.
Yeah, no worm.
The Unsullied or what was it? What are they called?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, back on topic.
Yeah. So basically, what happens with this tank is so they somehow tether it with the car. They throw the car off the overpass, and the car is supposed to tether the tank from going forward. And Shaw basically tells Letty to go out there and untether it. So she gets on top of the tank, and the tank's like driving down the road. She goes to like untether it. So the car basically does what it's supposed to do and anchors the tank. So the tank stops, and obviously Letty goes flying in the air. Dom sees this, like, I don't even know how he did it, but he like, I guess, crashed his car, but like had the door open, so he went flying too. And he's flying, catches her in midair, and then they're flying, and then they hit the
Tucks and
front
rolls,
window
big
of a
bumper.
car.
Tucks and rolls and like lands on the windshield of the car. No scratches whatsoever on him at this point.
Yeah, no scratches, no bruises, no bleeding, nothing. Um, and they didn't even like go through the car. It's just like the windshield got like a crack on it.
Oh, it catches him because this is the point of the movies where the cars are like cushions for everyone.
Yeah, it's gonna be a running theme even later. Like they even like fight off fire at some point.
Yeah. So, going back to the first Fast and the Furious movie when Dom's racing Brian and then he hits the truck and then his car like flips and then like does a roll. Like it zooms in on on Vin Diesel and he's like sitting there like this in the car like and he's got like blood coming down like he's dislocated his shoulder he's like bleeding he's like that's not what I had in mind. Like he gets so jacked up in that one scene, and now we've got him like flying across like a chasm bridge, grabbing a human being at like 100 miles per hour, tuck and rolling, landing on a car full impact. No scratches, no broken bones, nothing. So
Yeah.
it's
So
not what I had in mind.
so what I wrote on here was where is it? The end of realism. This is the point
And
where realism does not matter in the series.
yep,
Okay, so we just kind of skip to the end because this is another like big thing that a lot of people were talking about is like the world's longest airstrip.
yeah, it's like 40 miles.
Yeah,
Somebody
so
actually calculated that it would be a 40 miles long.
yeah, a 40-mile long airstrip. So basically what it is a plane comes down to the airstrip to extract Shaw and his crew. And I think a little bit before that Gina pretty much like flipped sides because she was like the mole, and
Double
the rock
cross.
didn't see it, and the rock's all surprised like what the hell. So yeah, so the plane it doesn't land, but it like lands on the ground and keeps going so that way they can just roll up in their cars and take off. um Let me see. So I put on here that Shaw flies out of the plane. It's one of those like where they throw him out of the plane and he goes into like complete darkness. So you don't see him get fucked up. You don't see him die. Like it's kind of like they leave it open basically.
Mm.
And basically the same thing happened to Giselle. So
But he
what?
dies.
Well,
Or does
supposedly,
she?
but like I don't know how Shaw can live and Giselle died if they both did the same exact thing.
Yeah, even though Vin Diesel can shoot himself 100 and some feet across a chasm,
Right.
I don't know. She wasn't family enough. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I feel like Giselle is still alive.
They can bring her back so that Han can have his happy ending.
So, this is one of the parts that I laughed at so bad. Okay, so they finally get the plane to go down, the plane explodes, and Dom is kind of like driving his car out of it while it
Mhm.
explodes. and for some reason his car flipped. I don't know why it flipped. He was
Just like
driving.
randomly, right? It like
Yeah,
it
like
lands
yeah.
and it
So he
goes.
lands and he's driving, and then he just flips upside down, and then like he goes into like the whole fire with the plane, and everybody gets out of the plane or out of the car to look into the fire to see if he's gonna come out. And the motherfucker walked out like Terminator, dude. Like he's walking through the fire, not getting hurt, not getting burned. I'm like, bro, what the fuck?
Yes, superhuman. I don't even remember that part. I do remember though, for some reason though, like I remember the car because it's a red Charger. I think it was like a red Charger or something. It shoots out. It like lands perfectly when it shoots out, and it does like this weird like bounce and like roll thing. I do remember that happening, which made no sense whatsoever. Physics denied.
I guess, man. All right, so that's pretty much it for that movie. Let me see. What did I give this movie? Damn, I didn't give it a score. All right, so I'll just give it a score right now. So this is Fast Six. I would probably get it. Dun, dun, dun. I'll say a C. I'll give it a C.
Without going into like too much more details on the movie, like I thought some of the fight scenes were really cool. I thought the fight scene with like Letty and Gina Carano and like that subway station was pretty cool because like everybody likes to see two like chicks like kick the crap out of each other. By the way, like not only is all of a sudden um like Ludacris like the most like talented hacker in the world, not only is like Brian completely like untouchable when it comes to the police because he's the only person that can betray the cops, become a cop again, betray the cops, become FBI, betray the cops, cops let him out. Like he's the only one that can get away with doing that apparently. Um, we also have no clue as to like how like Letty became like a black belt in martial arts because she went from being like Dom's girlfriend, like just being like his eye candy in one movie, like not even really that good of a racer, to hey, like I know martial arts and like I know kickboxing and I know judo and all this shit. So like I didn't know that they were such talented fighters because they all freaking just like race cars in like some like little neighborhood in California, in LA. But yeah, besides all that stuff, I still thought the action was cool for what it was, even though it was completely like unbelievable. I actually put it a D on my list. So it's a D just because now we're getting to a point where reality doesn't matter, logic doesn't matter. They're all just superhumans now. So
All right. So I mean, there's no D on the tier list. Does that mean you gave it an F?
well, I added a D to the tier list because I felt
Oh,
like
okay.
I couldn't make it an F because it wasn't like as horrible, but it also wasn't good enough to be a C. So I'm giving it a D because you can add a row to the bottom of that.
Okay. All right. So I give it a C. You gave it a D. All right. So let me see. So we're on Fast 7 now. Okay. So in the timeline, this is where from Fast and Furious 6 in between Fast and Furious 7 is where we get Tokyo Drift.
Finally,
Yeah, so at the end of
really
uh
funny intro.
Fast and Furious 6, Giselle dies and Han is just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm out. And that's when he goes to Tokyo. And that's where they pick up his story, where he's
Mhm.
with Sean and Little Bow Wow. And then at the end of Tokyo Drift, just a little recap, he dies because he ran into a car, flipped over, exploded, and died. So at the end of Fast 6, we get Jason Statham comes out and he's Deckard. He goes by Deckard Shaw, and he's the other Shaw's brother.
Mhm.
So basically, he's trying to kill Dom's team.
Mhm.
So what he does is he pretty much killed Han quotations. Like so many people take credit for Han's death and he's not even fucking dead.
Yeah.
So that's how that after credit scene was, and then he calls up Dom and he's all like, "You don't know me, but I know you, and I'm coming for you." And then it ends.
Mm.
So at the beginning of 7, so yeah, so I wrote down Jason Statham is Shaw. He kills Han. Letty leaves. Um, oh yeah, so Letty leaves because Dom is kind of like I guess they get back together, but Letty feels really bad because she doesn't have any of those memories as Dom has. So she doesn't feel like she's the same person that Dom remembers. So she feels so bad that she has to go leave and do her own thing and find herself. So she leaves. Basically, so the new Shaw goes into the Rock's work in downtown LA. The Rock finds him on the computer, like he's trying to like hack his computer and find the whole crew. So the Rock and Shaw have like their final, not final, but like they fight, and then the Rock does the Rock Bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this was like the start of that camera, like where they did
Oh, like the flip camera.
yeah, so the camera's like focused on them, and then it goes up, and then like the camera follows them like falling down,
Yeah.
and which was cool for that scene, but to do it like more scenes, it kind of got old like real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rock is out of commission because he jumped out of the window like 3 stories. He had the girl with him, falls onto a car, and I think he like got a scratch on his arm and ended up in the hospital for a couple weeks.
More like 5 stories.
Yeah, something like that. Like he jumped out of a building that exploded and landed on a car.
Well, it wasn't even that he like jumped out of the building. He got like the shockwave from the explosion threw him and the other chick out of the building. he just he just like fell straight down like onto a car and he didn't die.
Yeah, you can't kill the Rock like that.
Okay. I'm moving on.
Yeah, so moving on. So we get Kurt Russell. He joins the team. Well, not really joins the team, but he's like an aide to the team.
Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody. So basically, they're looking for God's Eye. Um, so I wrote in my notes that they're trying to trade Ramsey, because I guess in the last movie, um, the Shah had Ramsey, and then they were gonna use her to like hack God's Eye to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the point of the last movie. Um. Okay, so this is the one where they go to Dubai,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the one where I guess whatever they're looking for is inside of a car, which I don't know why. I was like inside of $100,000 car, inside of a building at like the very top, because like the people in the building are so rich they can do whatever they want. So they put the car on there. So Dom and Brian are in the car trying to get it out, and Ramsey and Ludacris are over there, doing their little hacking skills, trying to open the doors and close the doors and stuff like that. Um, but I guess by this time, Michelle Arletti came back, and she fights what's her
Damn, she's
name?
another MMA fighter. Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, so she fights Ronda Rousey.
Just
So
randomly. Like Ronda Rousey just happens to be like part of the security for that building, like on that floor. So just happens to be Ronda Rousey.
yeah, and
Like
she pretty much like she like holds her own too against her,
mm,
which kind of goes on your topic about how she became like a black belt.
yeah.
So
Amnesia gave her martial arts skills.
I guess maybe she had watched movies and she just thought she could do it. So we get the line from Brian where he says cars don't fly, and they basically go through 2 buildings because they go out of the building that they're in, they go through the middle building, and I guess his brakes don't work anymore. So they go through another building, and then they open the doors and they jump out, and the car like falls out, and like Vin Diesel's like he gets thrown out, but like he gets to hold on to the very last second because if he slid anymore, he would have got thrown out too.
Hmm.
So good drama, good drama.
Hmm.
So later in the movie, Mr. Nobody gets shot, but he doesn't die because of course he's like
Nobody dies,
nobody dies.
to our knowledge.
So I guess the bad guys use the God's Eye because somehow they get it. I don't remember how they get it.
I don't even remember if that was even in seven. I feel like seven was just so primarily focused on Jason Statham like trying to take down like everybody. But I could be
Uh
wrong.
yeah. Well, this is the one that I had like 3 pages of notes because so much shit goes on in this movie.
Yeah.
So we get so I wrote on here Dom and Shaw fight on top of the parking lot. So this is the one where so they're getting chased by God's Eye, I think. And then the God's Eye shoots like a rocket onto the parking structure while they're fighting. And then Dom is all like, funny thing about the streets is the streets always wins. And then like he stomps his foot really hard and like the whole like
Whole thing
thing like collapses and Shaw like falls down and he's pretty much done for the movie. Because like thousands of pounds of cement landed on him. But
he
they
survived.
yeah, he's fine. No broken
He's
bones,
fine.
no scratches, nothing. Let's see. The Rock. Okay, so this is the movie where The Rock was kind of like in the hospital the whole time. But if you notice, like, The Rock and Vin Diesel don't have any scenes together because I think this is where they started beefing.
Yeah, they were definitely beefing with each other.
Yeah, so there's no scenes with them together. So The Rock is all like, "Yeah, I have to go to work." Like, breaks open his cast by flexing, like rips it off, and it's like, bro, like, are you okay? Are you hurt? Are you what the fuck?
No. So it's, I mean, yeah, but the line was because like his daughter's with him, like he's with his daughter in the hospital, and he's like, wait for dad. Or he said, like, don't worry, sweetheart. He's like, daddy's gotta work. And he goes, because
Yeah,
you don't have like a muscle atrophy at all when you're wearing a cast for like so much time. And even though he like completely like shattered and dislocated his arm when he fell out of 5-story building, but it's cool. It's a cool scene. And then I think he rips like a machine gun off of like a helicopter, is what he did.
yeah. So he hijacks the ambulance.
Hmm.
He goes off of the overpass and times it perfectly to hit God's Eye and hits it, destroys it, rips the minigun off of it. Um, and then so Dom has his car on top of the some other like parking structure. He uses the ramp, jumps off of it, throws like a satchel onto the helicopter, and then like goes down and like kind of like crashes. So the guy is like he looks to see like what he put on the helicopter and notices like grenades. So you got the Rock like with the minigun, like I think he like shot it and it exploded. Um and then so everybody rushes to Dom's accident and like Dom's like dead again because they always do like his death fake outs. I don't know why. Um
You can't kill Dominic Toretto.
Yeah, so I think Brian was there too, and he was trying to like revive him, like giving him CPR and everything. And
Oh, he
Letty,
comes back to life.
yeah, so Letty was like, "Stop, stop!" And she like holds him, and starts talking to him, and she's like, "I remember everything." And then like he wakes up, he's like, "It's about time." I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god!"
Dude, like the worst
uh,
lines, and then like Letty, like the most used line in any of the movies from Letty is Dom,
Dude,
Dom,
for real. So
Dom.
if you guys want to do a drinking game, drink every time Letty screams out "Dom."
Yeah.
It's crazy how many
You'll
times she
never
does
know.
it. Um.
More
Okay.
drunk than Carlos is on this podcast
I know. Look how
episode.
red I am. That's why I'm not drinking no more because I can't.
Can't hang.
Okay. So we're going to the next one. Shaw goes to jail. Um. Yeah. So we get that scene where The Rock is like escorting Shaw into the jail, and he's like, there's like a hundred feet of concrete for you to get out, blah blah blah, whatever.
Does anybody even really care about like The Rock at this point in the franchise too? Like we've had him in 3 movies now.
Yeah, I think that's what their beef was about. Was like The Rock was just trying to like make it his franchise. Like me personally, that's what I think it was. I think The Rock wanted
Mm.
to take it over, and Vin Diesel was like, "Nah, like it's not happening." Um, so I think this is the movie that we find out that Paul Walker like had died like in real
Yeah.
life. So
Yeah.
at the very end, we get the scene of Paul, like they were at the beach, like everybody's at the beach, everyone's chilling. Vin Diesel gets up, like he drives away, and he gets to a stoplight, and then he looks to his like left, and Paul Walker's right there smiling at him, and we see like the CGI because I guess his brother had to play that part, and they just kind of like slapped his face on top of it.
Yeah.
So after that, they kind of go their separate ways, and it was kind of like a send off to Paul Walker, which
Yeah.
was really good. I feel like they did that really well. And then, yeah, the movie ends. That's all I have for that one. Let's see. Let me get into our tier list. And for this one, I actually put an S tier. Even though it was really cheesy, I feel like it was an S tier for me because of Paul Walker, because this was his last movie in it, and they kind of sent him off right.
Okay, well, as much as I respect that, like much respect to Paul Walker because I don't feel like the franchise will ever be the same without him. I still can't help but feel like it was not a good movie. So I put it right there with 6 in my D tier. Because to me, like 6 and 7 were kind of like the same movie to me. I mean, you had like 2 Shaws, you had like I don't know if they're still considered. I guess you consider them super spies now in 7 because this is when you see them at like their peak, like everything, like Vin Diesel like stomping a garage, The Rock like ripping his cast off and grabbing machine guns, and like Letty just being an absolute like ass kicker. Even like Paul Walker in the movie had like some really good like shootout like fight scenes. Like it was a good action movie, but it's just like it was to me it was like it was trying to be like Mission Impossible or like James Bond, and it just doesn't fit with like those characters, and it was just more ridiculousness of suspended reality to me. So I just still have to put it as a D tier.
All right, so
Sorry.
completely opposite, which is fine. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own tier. I swear, man, the more movies that we get on here, the more shit I have to talk about it. Okay, so Fast 8 starts off in Cuba. Um so this is when I guess they introduce more of Dom's family. So I guess he has a cousin out there. So I don't know if Dom's Mexican, is he Cuban? Like I even heard
Italian?
I've heard Mia like speaking like Portuguese. Like I don't know.
Is he Italian?
Like in real life.
I don't know. We might not know until Fast 10.
Yeah. When we get that DNA sample back.
Hmm. I feel like
Okay,
we
so
talked
he
about that at 9.
oh yeah, so yeah, we'll get to that. So yeah, so he wins a race by driving backwards in a car that's on fire. Like he was basically trying to win a race for his cousin because I guess he lost his car or something like that. I don't know.
Makes perfect
By
sense.
this time, like you're just watching it, just to eat popcorn and just watch like shit happen.
Hmm.
So The Rock is still in the franchise. I put that he's annoying. But he plays like a different character. So this is the one where he starts off like at the soccer field, and like he's like dancing with like the girls and stuff. And yeah, I didn't really like it. This is also the one where Dom turns bad
Yeah.
because
Fast and Furious is one of the few franchises where the good guys become bad guys and then the bad guys become good guys.
yeah, it was weird. But you know what? At this time, I think like the time period that this came out, there was a lot of it happening because
Mhm.
I think I remember talking to you about how they flip it where like the good guys turn bad, and like this wasn't the only one that it happened with. Like the movie, there was another movie where like a good guy had turned bad. I can't remember the movie what it was, but it was like a trend at that time.
Mhm.
Um. So yeah, let me see. I can't even read my own writing.
I don't even remember honestly what happened in Fast and Furious 8. I just remember a submarine in the middle of like the ice and Charlize Theron being like a creepy like super cyber hacker chick,
Yeah.
like
So
cyber espionage.
yeah. So this is our third hacker in the movie because we got Ludacris, we got Ramsey, and now we got what's her face, Charlize Theron. I don't even remember her name in the movie.
Now they're
Um,
bona fide super spies.
so this is the one where Clint Eastwood's son comes out in the movie. He gets
Oh yeah,
introduced.
Scott Eastwood.
Yeah,
I
which
don't even remember him being in the movie.
so he was kind of like a trainee under Mr. Nobody.
Hmm.
I guess Mr. Nobody was trying to like train him or whatever. Anyways, so Hobbs goes to jail because Dom betrays them because they're trying to do a heist. And I remember Dom like ran into Hobbs's car and he flipped over and the police got him. So he ends up in the same jail with Shaw. So so I remember Hobbs was kind of like showing off like bench pressing like that cement bench. And so Mr. Nobody basically opens the doors for them and then they have that whole breakout scene, which was entertaining, but it was stupid at the same time because there was one scene where you see like five people in front of the rock and then it cuts to like a hallway and you just see like everybody get thrown against the wall and then like the rock like walks through. It's like, okay, how did you do that? Like,
Hmm.
how did you throw five people at one time?
He's superhuman.
Um, so yeah, so uh there we go. So I guess the girl's Elena, the one that the Rock was messing with. The 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 helper, the
Yeah,
cop.
the she was basically like with whatever Hobbs was, whatever kind of like law enforcement he was, like that was she was his partner or whatever.
Yeah, so the one that Dom hooks up with, so technically so I guess they had a baby that he didn't know about. And she didn't tell him because, Letty had come back and they were happy together. So Charlize Theron kills, what's her name? Elena.
Hmm.
So now Dom basically wants to kill Charlize Theron.
We didn't actually see her die.
Yeah, I mean it was off camera because I think it was like a headshot or something.
Um,
Uh,
mind you, that there's a chance that she was probably pregnant because of the timeline when in Fast and Furious 7, Hobbs got thrown with her out of a building onto a car. So she probably was pregnant because she was still with Dom in that movie at the beginning until like Letty pops up, whatever it was. So I don't
yeah.
know. I assume that she was probably pregnant when that happened. So
Well, she had to because the last time we
super
see them
baby.
together was when The Rock went over there and showed Don that Letty was still alive. So that
Mm.
was the last time that they were together. So she had to be
Yeah,
pregnant by then.
yeah. Which that means that his baby is a super baby.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is the movie that they introduced the zombie cars in. So I guess Charlize Theron kind of like hijacks all the cars, like the smart cars,
Oh,
and they're all
okay.
chasing like this I don't know what he was, but he was like a high person like from another country that came in.
Yeah.
And like all these cars are just like falling out of like the parking garages and stuff like that, and then you have them like going down the street and like crashing into the building because they're like following them and stuff. I actually
Mm.
thought that scene was pretty cool. It was something new, which I kind of enjoyed. I wrote down it was a Russian politician. So basically Don was going after the Russian politician to get like new codes from him. So like he comes with like he was like fully armored and he had like a chainsaw and he's like trying to like break into the car. And then they just open the window and give him like the briefcase, which is pretty funny.
I like
Um
have nothing to say about this movie. I this like okay, I'm like I don't want to give away what tier I'm gonna give this movie later, but
Yeah, it's very forgettable.
I just don't remember this movie at all.
I wrote down Shaw. I guess the Shaw leaves the Rock in shambles. I don't remember what happened with that, but I guess the Rock was like devastated for something.
Mm,
So Elena dies. I already said that. So they take. So we go to Russia with the EMP and the sub. Um, and then at the end of the movie, they hijack the sub. So I guess Ramsey and Ludacris were like inside the sub, and they try like hijacking it basically.
mhm.
So we have the whole team. They're running on the ice from the subway from the sub because I guess Charlie Theron like took over the sub back over again. Um, let's see. So I wrote down human planes. I don't know what that is. See, I don't even remember, dude. Like I wrote down like a bunch of question marks and shit. So Shaw's brother comes back. Um, I really don't remember this movie, dude.
I don't remember the movie, dude. I seriously feel like I have to watch the movie all over again. I just don't remember it at all.
So Shaw saves the baby. I think he was on a plane or something.
Oh, like I remember him holding the baby and then like
Yeah,
people off and
yeah,
looking at her like, "You okay?"
yeah, yeah. Some stupid shit like that.
Yeah, even though one movie before this, Shaw wanted to kill like every single member of Vin Diesel's posse and family, but now he's gonna take care of Vin Diesel's baby because he cares so much.
Yeah, for real. Let's see. So the heat-seeking missiles take out the sub. Um, so basically, I think they shot. I don't know if it was God's Eye or something like that. But they had like a drone that shot missiles, like heat-seeking missiles, and then they kind of like routed it to the sub. So it blew up the sub, and then I think Dom like fell out of the car or something. So like they brought all the cars and formed a circle around Dom to save him from the explosion from the fire, and it worked.
Of course,
Um,
it worked.
yeah, so I guess Brian had another baby, and I think that's all I wrote on that one.
Because even though he's not in the movie anymore, he's still making contributions to the
Oh
franchise.
no, what it was is they named the baby Brian. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, meet Brian.
Yeah.
Everybody, meet Brian.
Yep. All right. So we're on Fast Eight. I don't even think I gave this one a rating. That's probably so bad. Um,
He's gonna.
Honestly,
He's
I'm
gonna.
gonna I'm gonna give this one an F, just because I don't remember the movie, and like for me, like if I don't remember the movie, it's just bad.
I give it the same rating because I don't remember the movie except how stupid it was. So like in like even compared to like all the other movies, like I literally looked at 8 and thought like how could they possibly make this movie after 7? Because I don't even remember like 7 being that bad. I just remember 8 being horrible and it was like it didn't need to exist at all. And that's how I felt about 7. Or I'm sorry, not 7, for 8. So that's what I gave it as well as I gave it an F.
Let's get into Fast Nine, the last installment before the new one comes out. So we get a flashback. I wrote down Ricky Bobby because I got those Ricky Bobby vibes from I guess Dom's dad was a like a NASCAR driver type thing.
Yeah.
So we kind of get the backstory of Dom's dad dying. You know, we got that story in the very first Fast and Furious. Now we actually get to see it play. So yeah, so Dom's dad dies. Um, and then it kind of like jumps back into like the present time. I guess Cypher shoots down nobody. Um, so nobody is Kurt Russell. He sends like a distress call to Dom or something, and basically Cypher shot him down. So the team comes to get Dom, but he says that he's retired. Um, yeah, I don't know. but he shows up anyway because obviously as Dom is his franchise, he can't not be in it.
He can't not be in the movie. But it's because of Letty though,
Yeah,
right? Isn't it because of Letty? Because like Letty feels compelled.
yeah. Well, Letty actually goes without him,
Yeah.
because they recruit both of them, and she goes, and then he's like, "No, I'm not gonna go," and then he shows up anyways. So
Mhm.
there was like actually no need for it for him to be all dramatic.
Mhm.
Um,
Grand entrance.
yeah. So they find something in the plane, and then they get a big reveal of it's John Cena. Yeah. So I wrote down nobody dies in this movie, so there's no tension. But I feel like that's how it is for this series now. The whole nobody dies, there's no tension. Nobody stays dead, there's no tension. It's
Mhm.
just everybody can do whatever the fuck they want, and
Mhm.
there's nothing happens. He jumps the car to the other side with the cable. So basically, the bridge has collapsed, and he drives his car, and then we get that famous, let the Dom. And
Damn.
so I guess the cable had like wrapped around the back of the tire, or
The
the
front
front
of the
of the
tire.
front of the tire. That's right.
Yeah.
And it carries the car all the way around to the other side. And which like I was watching it, so they get to the other side, the helicopters see them, and then the helicopters see them land, and then the helicopters just like turn around. I was like, all right,
I
cool.
was like, we're done.
Yeah, like they
There's
had
no
no
point.
reason to leave. Made no sense.
Like, there's no point after this.
Um so Roman wonders how they're still alive. So basically Tyrese's character kind of like breaks like the fourth wall, and he was just like, like we've been through all this shit. We fought a submarine, we fought this, we fought that, and none of us ever died. He's like, are we invincible? And then like Ludacris is kind of like egging him on. He's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. And then at the end, he's just like, you're stupid. Like you actually believe that?
Yeah.
And it was cool, a little back and forth. So like basically like Ludacris and Tyrese are the ones that become like best friends because now that Brian's not there, like Tyrese has to have somebody like to bounce off of,
Yeah.
and it's Ludacris now. Um, let's see. So Mia comes back. She hasn't been in the movie since Paul Walker's last movie. They just kind of say that she's been with the kids with Brian, and they're like out, basically retired. But she comes back because John Cena is their brother, which is stupid because in like an earlier movie she says like, how am I not supposed to support my only brother? But now she
No.
has another brother that she has to go support.
Well, because, they thought that, I don't know.
Like they didn't even think he was dead. They ran him off.
uh, we just like pretend that he never existed for no reason.
Yeah, like no reason. So they explain that why Brian's not in the movie is because he's a babysitter. He's staying home with the kids because
Mhm.
Mia has to go out there and handle business because it's her brother, or else she wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, she gets to run around doing super spy espionage shit.
Which is so out of character for Brian, because you don't think Brian would have hired a babysitter to go out there and like help his wife?
He gave up the life, man.
Yeah, but so did she, and now she's in it again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Dom finds out that Cena killed their dad. So I forgot how it went down, but I guess John Cena had messed with the engine somehow to where it was gonna kill the dad. But I guess I don't know. From what I wrote down, I guess the dad wanted to die or something. I can't remember how that went down.
Well,
Um.
it wasn't that like the dad was trying to die. It's that he was trying to throw the race, and
Oh,
he
okay.
had John Cena do it because if he told Dom, like he couldn't allow Dom to like look down on him because like Dom looked up to his dad, like Dom was the golden boy. Um, John Cena was like not the favorite. That's why the dad felt like he could ask John Cena to fuck with his car, but the intent was just to throw the race, not to like die he was just supposed to like throw the race, and the only way he felt like he could do that is if they messed with his car and like wreck his car. But even in the movie, John Cena was like, "How was I supposed to know that Dad was gonna die like that?" Or like something stupid, like I didn't know that was gonna happen. But I think he was just trying to throw the race. I don't think he was actually trying to like intentionally let himself get killed.
Okay, yeah, it's all coming back to me now. So we have a Merle comes out in this movie. He has like a little
Oh
cameo.
yeah, he's the guy, the mullet. He's the mechanic mullet.
Yeah, like I was actually like happy to see him.
Like
He
not
like
Walking Dead.
yeah, like he was one of my favorites in The Walking Dead too. But like to see him do other stuff, like he also came out in
To the galaxy.
yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy and what was the other one? The DC one.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, came out in that one, like the second one. So
Yeah,
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 so
I remember him in Suicide Squad. That's right.
yeah. So I wrote down Sean comes back with Bow Wow and they're looking old, dude. Like
Old as fuck.
yeah.
Which, hang on, we forgot to mention that in Furious 6 when like Dom, they finally like let the timeline catch up, and like Dom is like talking to Sean like in Tokyo, and like I don't know like if they were trying to make like Sean like look younger, because this is supposed to happen exactly at the end of Tokyo Drift. But dude's hairline has receded like so far, dude. It just they did a horrible job making him look younger for this movie, even like previously. Like because it'd been like what, like almost 10 years. I feel it's almost like 10 years now before the last movie. But yeah. But yeah, we are reintroduced to Bow Wow and Sean. Bow Wow looking chunky.
Yeah, well he's all grown up now.
Yeah.
So I put so we get a cameo from Cardi B, which I didn't like. I'm not a Cardi B fan, so I
It's
didn't
kind
like.
of unnecessary.
Yeah. So we get Han's alive. So Han comes back. And this is when I want to say like Mia and Letty go to Japan and they
Hmm.
find like that Mexican flag in the window and
Yep.
then they basically find him.
Because Han's a sniper.
Yeah, so he's a sniper. So basically what happened in this timeline is so in Tokyo Drift we see Han flip over. We get to zoom in on his face. He's all fucked up. Car explodes. He dies. So then a couple movies later, we see the same exact scene, but we see that Decker Shaw is the one that rammed into him and flipped him over and killed him. And then he threw Dom's necklace over there as evidence that he did it. So now we get a third version of it that somehow Han was driving the car. He got out of the car. Somebody else got in the car, flipped over and died, but I guess nobody actually died because you see Han in the corner with Mr. Nobody looking at the car accident being like he like very good job.
Snacking on his cashews or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
So that was their explanation of why Han is still alive is because he jumped out of the car, somebody else jumped in and then jumped out before it exploded, even though we get the clear zoom in on Han dying. So yeah. So
Made no
that's
sense whatsoever.
yeah, so that's how they brought Han back. Um, so now that for some reason they have to go to space because they have to disable a satellite,
Mhm.
and that's why Sean and Bow Wow and I guess there was somebody else I don't remember his name, but I don't
It
think
was
he
like a
was
Asian, like he was basically like an engineer or like a rocket. He was like a rocket engineer, but he's never been in any other movie before.
okay. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He doesn't look familiar. Um, so they're talking about going to space, and now Jacob, which is John Cena, is a good guy because Cypher betrayed him on I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of double crossing. Um, so Cypher gets away. Um, oh, okay. So let me go back to the space thing. So we have Ludacris and Tyrese. They basically like soup up a car to go into space. And I remember this part because they were talking about Virgin Galactic, how they kind of like went up to a certain like altitude and like and then So in the movie, the car like lets go, and then they have the rockets which propels them into space. So their job is to somehow disable this satellite, and they aren't able to do it. So what they do is they ram the satellite, like destroying it. But at the same time, Ludacris was saying like, if we do that, we're not going to be able to get back home. Like that's it, we're dead. And they do it anyways. And then after everything, they're at the barbecue, like nothing happened. And I'm like, how the fuck did you guys get home? Like, who
It was
rescued you?
back into the atmosphere.
Yeah, but they don't have like parachutes or nothing. Like, how did that happen? It doesn't explain it at all. Um. So yeah, so we'll get to the barbecue. So everybody's at the barbecue, and then Dom sees that there's an open spot, and he says like, "Hey, like somebody's missing," and I think Mia says like, "Oh yeah, he's on his way," and then you see a car like roll up, park in the driveway. You see Dom smiling, and then it ends. So you're kind
Brian.
of yeah. So you are led to believe that is Brian, and so yeah. So supposedly Brian is supposed to be coming back in 10. I guess he's gonna be like CGI'd like very heavily.
Deep fake. They're gonna deep fake him on his brother's face and probably use like that AI technology to replicate Paul Walker's voice. Which they probably got a budget for it, I'm sure. I'm sure they're gonna be like very like picky and choosy with how they have scenes with him, but I think it's gonna just be more of like a cameo. I don't think they're intending to keep him like in the movie.
Yeah, because I
Even
haven't
though
seen him at all.
technically, like based on who the bad guy is in the movie, which is what's his name? Khal
Jason
Drogo,
Momoa.
Jason Momoa. Like he's from Fast and Furious 5 somehow because when they were like heisting that bank or like
The Vault.
that big ass vault, he was involved in like the wreckage that was in that vault. So because he has like this vengeance and vendetta against Vin Diesel and everybody in his crew, I guess you have to bring Paul Walker back because if he's just like chilling at home, like babysitting kids, he's probably gonna get assassinated. So I guess they need to bring him in just to like make sure that he's protected from being killed off by Khal Drogo. No,
I guess. I mean, we'll see.
jumping ahead. So 9, Fast 9. Uh, trying to think of like what else happens in that movie. Like besides the disbelief that like Vin Diesel has a brother who's like whiter than snow, that both share the same last name of Toretto, which doesn't explain anything. Um, try- the magnets,
Oh,
like
that's
I
right.
forgot to
Yeah.
mention somehow they get a hold of like this shit ton of like super magnets that they can just like turn off and turn on at will, and it pulls cars to them and then throws cars away from them, and they're just like pulling and pushing cars like back and forth while they're chasing down like that big like semi truck that's controlling like the satellite dish. The
Yeah.
super magnets.
But you see, like all these movies are very forgettable.
Yeah, man. I just remember seeing that and thinking like, what the fuck am I watching, dude? Uh, and then another thing that kind of cracks me up is like because they're all super spies now, which it's verified because you know when Vin Diesel and John Cena are talking, John Cena's like, "You're in my world, Dom. I'm the super spy. You're in my world. You're just a thief from blah blah blah." Anyways, I think it's funny that like their crew gets sent out on these like top secret like espionage missions, and instead of like showing up with like weapons and like tactical gear and shit, it's just like Vin Diesel in a fucking like white t-shirt and boots, like Timberlands, with a fucking shotgun, playing like commando in the jungle somewhere. like like they don't have any better like tactical gear besides just like him like waking up from his house. It's just hard to believe. It's just hard to believe.
Yeah. So with that, my final rating on this one was an F. Horrible.
I also give it an F for all those reasons that we just talked about. It was just like, they'll like just throw anything at you now and just like whatever sticks. Like none of it needs to make sense, none of it needs to matter. I have no idea what they were doing with the story. I actually liked the flashback of like when Dom and his brother were younger. I actually like that scene better than everything about Fast and Furious 8 and 9. Like I thought that was better than both movies. At least they still had a street race in that movie, which they haven't had in like any of the movies. Like the past 3 movies don't even race cars anymore. So I almost gave 7 an F, but I wanted to like pay respect to Paul Walker too. But literally, like those last 3 movies, like aren't even like Fast and Furious movies to me anymore. Like there aren't any race cars anymore.
Yeah,
It
for
is what it
sure.
is.
All right, man. So I think we're done.
That is our ranking of the Fast and Furious movies based on our
Yeah,
opinions.
we got through all 9 in 2 hours.
And when they come out with the next 3 Fast and Furious movies, because we established that they're having a part 1, 2, and 3, we're gonna figure out how to squeeze those into our tier list when those come out. So
Yeah, they're probably gonna be pretty bad, so we might throw Hobbs and Shaw in there too.
we might have to just to balance it out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining us on this journey. Sorry I couldn't drink all the way. This shit was hitting me too hard. I wanted to finish
The
it.
reality sunk in too fast.
Yeah,
Too fast and too furious.
I can't drink like I used to.
It's just all about family.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys liked our tier list. If you guys liked it, let us know. We'll do some more of these. We can do different franchises that have a lot of movies involved. It was fun for us, so like I'm down to do it again.
Let us know too below, guys. Like, how did you guys feel about our list? Like, do you guys agree? Do you disagree? Would you rank all of the movies at S tier because you just love the franchise so much? I actually have a guy at work that loves all the Fast and Furious movies, so I kind of give him shit about it all the time. I question it. I question what it is about the movies that he loves so much, and sometimes it's fun. So let us know down below how you guys feel about the Fast and Furious movies.
Yep. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Check us out on another episode of the Bro Tech Gaming Podcast. My name is Carlos. His name is Sean.